Let's go ahead and talk about the October 20th, 2025 episode of Monday Night Raw. So, yeah, we kick off the show with the first segment of the night where we see the Raw General Manager, Adam Pearce. He is standing inside the ring and he starts talking about what happened last week on Raw and everything to Seth Rollins about when he got kicked out of the Vision and all that stuff. And then he starts talking about the World Heavyweight Championship. But then we see an SUV pulling up to the arena, and then we see Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker coming out of the SUV with Braun Breaker holding the World Heavyweight Championship, so Seth Rollins is not there tonight. And then they make it to the ring, and then that's what Adam Pearce was talking to them, and he was talking about how, that last week he knew the injury from Seth Rollins after his match against Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel, but then what happened was Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed pretty much made that injury way more worse after what they pulled last week, and he says that Seth Rollins is going to be out for a little while after he has his shoulder surgery. So yeah, that's what Adam Pearce was talking about there. But then he starts talking about how CM Punk earned a world title match at Saturday Night's Main Event, so he is the number one contender and all that stuff, and now Seth Rollins gets to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship because he was originally supposed to be facing CM Punk at Saturday Night's Main Event, so Adam Pearce strips him from the world title, and then he says that, they're going to have a battle royal to determine the other number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, and winner of that match faces CM Punk at Saturday Night's Main Event for the world title. So yeah, that's what Adam Pearce says there. And then Adam Pearce asked for the World Heavyweight Championship back, and then Braun Breaker was being pretty much not trying to give it to him, and then he says, "Tell me, please." And then Adam Pearce says, "Please," and it looks like Breaker is about to hand him the world title, but then he hands it over to Paul Heyman, and then Paul Heyman hands Adam Pearce the world title, and then Adam Pearce walks out. So yeah, that's what happened there. And then after that, we see Paul Heyman grabbing the mic, and he starts talking, and he was talking about how, he didn't turn on CM Punk and Roman Reigns for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, how he turned on CM Punk and Roman Reigns for Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. So yeah, that's what he was talking about there. He was talking about the Vision and all that stuff, and how the Vision rules over the bloodline and all that. So yeah, that's what Paul Heyman was talking about there, sending a message out. And he was talking about how the Vision is going to be very bright, with Braun Breaker being a future WrestleMania main eventer, and Bronson Reed as well. So yeah, talking about how they are the future and all that stuff, and that's what Paul Heyman says, sending out a message there. So yeah, that's what happened there. And then after that, we see Finn Balor and JD McDonough getting ready for their match backstage, and then we see Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez getting ready as well. And then we see Dominic Mysterio coming in there, and Finn is all upset about Dominic and everything for last week on Raw, and Dominic was talking about how he defends his Intercontinental Championship pretty much every week on Raw. So yeah, that's what he was talking about there. And he was talking about how it won't hurt them to defend their titles tonight. And then he says that he already defeated AJ Styles 2 times. And he says that, can Finn and JD actually defeat him? So yeah, that's what he was talking about there. And Finn wasn't too happy about that. But then he says that they're going to go beat him now. So yeah, that's what happened there. And they walked out. And then we see Roxanne trying to comfort Dominic and talking about how he got Rusev tonight, and that's what happened there. So yeah, later on tonight we're going to be seeing Dominic Mysterio defending the Intercontinental Championship up against Rusev later on tonight. Not only that, we're going to be seeing Roxanne Perez versus Stephanie Vaquer one-on-one, but up next it will be JD McDonough and Finn Balor defending the World Tag Team Championships up against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee up next in a tag team match. So yeah, that match is up next. That'll be the first match of the night. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, we get to the first match of the night. It was the WWE World Tag Team Champions, Finn Balor and JD McDonough, the Judgment Day versus AJ Styles and Dragon Lee in a tag team match for the World Tag Team Championships. So yeah, we get to this match, and this match, it was a really good one. It was back and forth and everything. At one point, we actually see AJ Styles hitting the Phenomenal Forearm. I think it was onto Finn Balor, and he got a 2 count of that because of JD McDonough breaking up the pin. So that was pretty crazy. And then JD and Styles was going at it a lot of times in this match as well, back and forth and everything. But then we start getting towards the ending of this match where we see JD hitting a moonsault to the top turnbuckle on the Styles. He tags in Finn. Finn climbs up the top turnbuckle. He jumps off with a coup de grace onto Styles. He pins him 1, 2. The pin gets broken up at the count of 2 from Dragon Lee because we see JD try to stop Dragon Lee, but Dragon Lee jumped over him, breaking up the pin at the count of 2, and then after all that stuff, we see JD get thrown out the ring by Dragon Lee, and then Dragon Lee ducks a clothesline from Finn and manages to hit a suicide dive onto JD McDonough outside of the ring, taking him out, and then we see Finn picking up Styles, try to hit the Styles Clash on AJ Styles, and then Styles fought out of that, countering everything, and he manages to pick up Finn, hitting a Styles Clash onto him, pinning him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee defeated Finn Balor and JD McDonough of the Judgment Day tonight to become the new World Tag Team Champions. That's why they're a really great match. So for that match, I'll give it 3.5 stars. That's why I'll give it a really great match between these two teams right here. But yeah, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee are the new World Tag Team Champions. And then, after that match, we see backstage Jimmy Uso getting ready for the Battle Royale later on tonight, and then Jey Uso comes up, and Jey wants to talk to Jimmy, and then Jimmy was talking about how Roman's not around, how the only reason Jey's not world champion and all that is because Jey forgot himself, and Jey doesn't have confidence in himself and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what he was telling Jey, and Jey was telling Jimmy that he's possibly right, and then Jimmy was talking about how he's in the Battle Royale tonight, and that Jey's in there as well, but then Jimmy says everyone for themselves, and he says that he'll go after Jey as well to become #1 contender as well, and that's what Jimmy was telling Jey, and then Jey was talking about, alright, that's fine with me, and then he asked Jimmy if he forgives him, and Jimmy says yeah. So yeah, that's what happened there. Later on tonight, they're going to be in the Battle Royale to determine the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, that'll be later on tonight on Raw. Not only that, we're going to be seeing Becky Lynch defending the Women's Intercontinental Championship up against Maxine Dupree. But up next, we're going to be seeing Dirty Dominic Mysterio defending the Intercontinental Championship up against Rusev up next on Monday Night Raw. So yeah, that match will be up next for the IC Championship. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing to happen on Monday Night Raw, we get to the next match of the night. It was the Intercontinental Champion Dominic Mysterio versus Rusev 1-on-1 for the Intercontinental Championship. So yeah, we get to this match while Dominic makes his entrance first, and then we see Rusev making his entrance. But before Rusev can get in the ring, we see Dominic hitting a suicide dive onto him, and then he throws Rusev into the steel steps. They get into the ring, they finally get the match underway. Dominic was actually taking control of this match the first half of it, but then Rusev starts coming back and starts beating the hell out of Dominic, and then we see Rusev picking up the pace, and it looks like he's about to win because he steps on Dominic's back, about to lock on the accolade onto Dominic, but then Dominic quickly slips through, sliding out of the ring, and then we see Dominic grabbing his Intercontinental and AAA Mega Championships, and it looks like he's about to walk away, but then in the Timekeepers area, we see Penta popping up, and Penta's preventing Dominic from leaving, and Dominic and Penta's face to face, and then Rusev comes up grabbing Dominic, throwing him into the Timekeepers area, into Penta taking both of them out, and then we see Dominic grabbing the ring bell hammer, and then Rusev grabs Dominic, he throws him in the ring, and then Rusev and Penta's face to face outside of the ring, and then he punches Penta outside of the ring, knocking Penta down. The referee's all distracted by that, and we see Dominic slipping the ring bell hammer into his boot, and then we see Dominic knocking Rusev onto the second rope. As soon as he got back into the ring, he tries to hit the 619 onto him, but then Rusev grabs him by the legs, countering it. He pulls him in the middle of the ring, and then he pulls out the hammer that was inside of Dominic's boot, and then he was about to hit Dominic with it, but then the referee stops him, and then Rusev turns around, pretty much frustrated and everything about the hammer and all that stuff, and then he gets hit with a low blow by Dominic. The referee didn't see it, and then that's when Rusev falls onto the second rope. Dominic hits a 619, and then he climbs up the top turnbuckle, jumping off with a frog splash onto Rusev, pinning him for the 3 count. So yeah, Dominic Mysterio defeated Rusev tonight to retain the Intercontinental Championship. That's what happened there. Really good match. And then after all that stuff, we see Dominic rolling out the ring, celebrating and all. Rusev gets back up to his feet, but then Penta gets into the ring, jumping off the second rope into a tornado DDT onto Rusev, laying him out, and then Penta standing tall inside the ring. So yeah, that's what happened there for the match. What happened after the match, I'll give it all 3.5 stars. That's why I'll give it pretty good stuff. But yeah, up next, it will be Becky Lynch versus Maxine Dupree 1-on-1 for the Women's Intercontinental Championship up next on Raw. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing to happen on Monday Night Raw, we get to the next match of the night. It was the WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch versus Maxine Dupree, one-on-one for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So yeah, we get to this match, and this match, it was a really good one. Becky Lynch was doing pretty well up against Maxine, but Maxine has been really impressive lately. Definitely with her last match against Becky Lynch a few weeks ago. Yeah, she does really good against Becky Lynch tonight as well. And yeah, it was back and forth and everything. Maxine's coming up near falls a lot of times in this one. Like at one point, her and Becky was going at it up there on the top turnbuckle, and then we see Maxine throw Becky off the top turnbuckle, and she manages to jump off with a crossbody onto Becky. She pins her 1, 2, Becky barely kicked out at 2, like literally barely kicked out at 2, and then at one point we actually see Becky Lynch grabbing the Women's Intercontinental Championship, attempting to walk out, and then we see Maxine throw Becky back into the ring, and Becky had the title and everything, but then Maxine rolls up Becky for a pin. She pins her 1, 2, Becky literally barely kicking out at 2 right then and there, and Maxine couldn't believe it. She's looking at the referee saying that's a 2 count only, and then all of a sudden we see Maxine get hit upside the back of the head with the title, causing a disqualification. So yeah, Maxine Dupree defeated Becky Lynch by disqualification, but Becky Lynch retains the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and then after all that match happens and everything, we see Becky attacking Maxine, beating her down. She picks her up, hitting the manhandle slam onto Maxine, laying her out. So yeah, that's what happened there. Pretty good match for the most part, and what happened after the match was pretty good stuff. I'll give it all 3 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was pretty good stuff. But yeah, that's what happened there. And then after that, they showed what happened to Rhea Ripley. Apparently, she suffered a broken nose down in Japan because WWE was doing a live event down there in Japan. So yeah, she suffered a broken nose down there. And then after that, we see a promo package from Asuka and Kairi Sane where they was talking about pretty much what the Kabuki Warriors are pretty much back and how they're going after the Women's Tag Team Championships and Io Sky and everything. So yeah, that's what's going on there. But yeah, up next we're going to be seeing Stephanie Vaquer versus Roxanne Perez one-on-one up next on Raw. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing that happened on Monday Night Raw. Now, before we talk about the next match of the night, we got to talk about a backstage segment. So yeah, we see Paul Heyman waiting at Adam Pearce's office door, and then Adam Pearce answers it, and then Paul Heyman was like, "Well, you got me waiting here for so long for," and then Adam Pearce was actually telling him that they was changing the graphic, and that they changed the graphic to the Battle Royale because they done took Braun Breaker and Braun Strowman out of it. And then Paul Heyman was like, "Oh God," and then Adam Pearce was like, "Look, I'll put them back in there, but you gotta beg for it." So yeah, that's what he tells him. And then Paul Heyman actually says, "Can you please put Braun Breaker and Braun Strowman back in the Battle Royale?" And then we see Adam Pearce says, "Yeah, no, I ain't gonna do that." And then he starts laughing at him. So yeah, that's what happened there. He shuts the door. And then Paul Heyman was upset about that, but then he turns around, and then we see Becky Lynch, and Becky Lynch was staring at him, and then Paul Heyman starts talking to Becky, telling him that, telling her that he didn't want to turn on Seth Rollins and all that stuff. And last week, and he says that he actually bent the knee and everything, all upset for Seth Rollins after he got taken out by Braun Breaker and Braun Strowman last week. And he says that pretty much he got forced into it and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what he was telling her. But then he says that, she got the trophy husband at home now, and, he could be her oracle on the road. So yeah, that's what he was telling her. And then all of a sudden she grabs him by the tie, and she says that once Seth Rollins comes back, he's going to get his hands on him. And then she says that Seth Rollins already knew that Paul Heyman and the rest of the division was going to turn on him. It was just a matter of time. So yeah, that's what she was saying there. And then yeah, that's what she tells Paul Heyman, sending him a message there. And then she told him that, she didn't like him to begin with. So yeah, that's what happened there. But then after that, we get to the next match of the night. It was the WWE Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer versus Roxanne Perez with Raquel Rodriguez at ringside the Judgment Day in a one-on-one match. So yeah, we get to this match. And this match, it was pretty good. Stephanie was doing pretty well up against Roxanne, hitting the Devil's Kiss and everything. Roxanne was doing pretty well up against Stephanie as well. But then Stephanie knocks her out of the ring. So Stephanie knocks Roxanne out of the ring, and then she jumps off the top turnbuckle with a crossbody on Raquel and Roxanne, taking both of them out. She throws Roxanne back into the ring, hitting her finisher move, the new one actually, the Angel Wings code-breaker type move onto Roxanne, pinning her for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Stephanie Vaquer defeated Roxanne Perez tonight in a one-on-one match, but then after the match ended, we see Raquel getting in there, attacking Stephanie, and became 2-on-1 up until Nikki Bella makes her return, coming out there as well, saving Stephanie, knocking Raquel out of the ring by pulling down the top rope and everything, and she's going at it with Roxanne. Roxanne was fighting back and everything, and then Nikki Bella was doing pretty well up against Roxanne, but then she was getting taken out by the numbers 2-on-1 as well, and then we see Stephanie up there on the pretty much on the ring apron. She springboarded off the top rope, but then kind of botches, like she pretty much couldn't turn or whatever. The way how, Raquel was standing and stuff was in the opposite way, I guess. And yeah, it pretty much became botched. Hopefully she's okay, because she started limping and all that stuff. But then they managed to knock the Judgment Day out of the ring, saving themselves. So yeah, that's what happened there. Pretty good stuff. But yeah, for the match and what happened after the match, I'll give it all 3 stars as well. I'll give it pretty good stuff. But yeah, then after all that stuff, we actually see backstage Lyra Valkyria and Adam Pearce talking backstage, and Lyra was talking about how crazy Bayley's been acting and all that stuff. But then Bayley comes walking up, and she was talking about Lyra Valkyria's birthday and all that stuff, and how she gets her a gift. And Lyra was like, "Oh, tell me it now." And then Bayley was like, "I ain't gonna tell you right now." And then Lyra was like, "Come on now." So yeah, that's what's going on there. And then after that, we see Paul Heyman talking to the Vision backstage, and the Vision's all upset and everything about getting kicked out of the Battle Royale and all that stuff. And then Paul Heyman was telling them that they gotta listen to him and everything, because look what happens when people listen to him. He was talking about how Brock Lesnar pretty much became WWE champion after 5 months of listening to Paul Heyman, and then he was talking about how he saved CM Punk's career by him not getting fired within 100 days of his WWE championship reign in 2012, and then he was talking about how Roman Reigns main evented so many WrestleManias with him. So yeah, that's what he was saying there. He tells them to be patient and listen to him, and they pretty much listen to that. So yeah, that's what happened there. And then after that, we see backstage Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella talking. Stephanie was thanking Nikki Bella, and Nikki Bella was thanking Stephanie and all that stuff. And then they was talking about how they should team up against the Judgment Day. So yeah, that's what's going on there. But yeah, up next it will be the 20-man Battle Royale up next on Raw to determine the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event of tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, we get to the main event. It was the Battle Royale to determine the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship that will be facing CM Punk for the world title at Saturday night's main event. So yeah, that's what this match is all about. They had a lot of people in this match. They had Jimmy and Jay, the Usos in here, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Rusev, Alpha Academy, El Grande Americano, AJ Styles. They had so many people in this match. LA Knight, Sheamus, Kofi Kingston, so many others. Penta and all of them. And then we see CM Punk on commentary for this match. We see Otis be the first one eliminated by Rusev, and then Akira Tozawa was next. During this match, we actually see Penta and Rusev going at it on the ring apron, but then both of them got knocked off the apron by Dominic Mysterio getting eliminated. And then we see, at one point, Sheamus eliminating JD McDonough, and then Finn Balor got eliminated as well, but then they was getting up there on the ring apron, pulling down Sheamus, and then Kofi Kingston eliminated Sheamus, and then we see Sheamus brawling with the Judgment Day outside the ring, and then the referees is dealing with all them, and while the referees was dealing with all them, we see AJ Styles eliminating Dominic Mysterio, but then he quickly got back into the ring because now the referees seen him because it was dealing with Sheamus brawling with the Judgment Day. Then we were seeing everyone else going at it, and then we see Jimmy Uso saving Jey Uso a lot of times in this match as well. And then we see AJ Styles get eliminated, and then at one point we actually see Jimmy Uso and LA Knight going at it, and they was both about to get eliminated themselves, and then Jey Uso eliminates both of them at the same exact time, and then after both of them got eliminated, we see Jimmy Uso complaining and everything to Jay, but obviously Jay pretty much didn't care, and then he got drop kicked onto the second rope by Dominic, and then Dominic was setting up for the 619, but then Jay quickly got back up to his feet, throwing Dom over his head, eliminating Dominic Mysterio, and then Jey Uso won the Battle Royale to become the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then after the match ended, we see CM Punk getting into the ring, standing face to face with Jey Uso to end off the show. So yeah, Saturday night's main event will be CM Punk versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, that's what happened there. Pretty good match though. I'll give that whole Battle Royale 3.5 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was pretty good stuff. But yeah, that's what happened there. But for match of the night, in my personal opinion, I would say it was the World Tag Team title match. That match was really good. So yeah, I would say that was match of the night. But yeah, for today's episode of Raw, it was pretty good. I'll give it 8.5 stars as well. I'll give it. But yeah, that has been my Monday Night Raw reviews. Like, subscribe to Team W Wrestling on YouTube, subscribe to my other channel, Word of Chris, and subscribe to this channel, Chris McDaniels, and follow me on all my social media accounts. It'll be down there in the description box. And yeah, I'll be doing my NXT reviews tomorrow night, so yeah, look out for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then.